At my husband's funeral, my Emile patted my hand and said, "Now that he's gone, you're not really family anymore, are you?" I was still holding his ring. My fingers were still trembling. I didn't speak. I just walked out before the casket was lowered. 2 years later, she reached out, begging to see her grandkids. I replied with a single line. "You made it clear. We're not family." When Matt died, I thought the worst pain would be losing him. But I learned fast that grief isn't a straight line. It's 1,000 little cuts that don't stop bleeding. The funeral was supposed to be about saying goodbye, about honoring the man I loved. But the real heartbreak that day didn't come from his death. It came from his mother. We were at Given's funeral home in Asheville. Old place, smells like furniture polish and lilies. I wore a black dress that didn't fit right. I had lost so much weight those first few weeks, nothing fit right. I held Matt's ring the whole service. I remember the way it felt. Heavy, cold, wrong without him wearing it. My fingers were trembling. I couldn't stop them. I sat between Kaylee and Sophie, both of them clutching tissues and staring at the floor. Doreen wore a navy suit. Her hair was pinned back too tight, her face hard as stone. She hadn't cried once. Not once. Halfway through the service, she came over. Everyone thought she was coming to comfort me. I thought she was too. She grabbed my hand like she was about to pray with me. Her skin was cold. And then, in this soft voice, like she was telling me a secret, "Now that he's gone, you're not really family anymore, are you?" I remember blinking, thinking maybe I misheard. Maybe I was imagining things. But no, she smiled this thin little smile and gave my hand a pat, like I was a stranger at a hospital. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My mouth wouldn't work. I stood up. My legs almost gave out under me. I left the funeral home, walked straight out into the parking lot, and drove home. I didn't watch them lower the casket. I didn't want that to be the last thing my daughters remembered. That night, Doreen didn't call to check on us. She didn't visit. She didn't send flowers or food or anything. And for 2 years, she stayed away. I didn't chase her. I didn't need someone who could cut us off so easily. I picked up the pieces of my life. I worked at the pharmacy during the day and cleaned offices at night. I paid bills late sometimes, but I always kept the lights on. Always had food on the table, even if it wasn't fancy. Kaylee started middle school. Sophie learned how to ride her bike. They grew up without a grandma. I told myself it was better that way. Better no grandmother than one who saw them as obligations. Then 2 years later, a text. An unknown number.
"Hi, it's Doreen.
I'd like to see the girls. Please call me." No apology. No explanation. Just a demand dressed up like a request. I didn't answer right away. I sat with it. Let it boil. And then I remembered. Remembered her words, her face, her hand on mine like I was nobody. I typed back a single line. "You made it clear. We're not family." I blocked her number. Deleted the text. And I felt lighter than I had in a long, long time. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks after I blocked her number, a letter showed up. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Tight, angry loops. It was Doreen. Inside was a 2-page letter, front and back, blaming me for keeping the girls away. Saying Matt would be ashamed of me. That blood is blood, and I was poisoning his memory by turning the girls against her. I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash without even finishing it. The next week, Kaylee came home from school confused. "Mom," she said, her backpack sliding off her shoulder, "some lady came to school today.
She asked about me.
Said she was my grandma." My blood ran cold. I called the school immediately. Turns out, Doreen had shown up during dismissal, trying to talk to the girls. Thank God the school secretary knew not to let strangers near the kids. They called it an incident and warned me to be careful. I changed our pickup routines, made sure no one but me or the babysitter could get them. I even called the police, but they said since Doreen was technically family and hadn't made any direct threats, there wasn't much they could do unless she physically tried to take them. It shook me up bad. For the first time since Matt died, I felt scared. Really scared. I sat the girls down and explained everything in simple words. Grandma isn't making good choices right now. If you ever see her anywhere without me, you run to a teacher, okay? You don't go with her. Not ever. They nodded, wide-eyed. I hated having to make them afraid. But it got worse. One Sunday after church, I saw her.
Doreen.
Sitting in a car across the street. Watching us. She didn't get out. She just sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel. Staring. I didn't let go of Kaylee and Sophie's hands until we were safe inside the house, with the doors locked. That night, I got another letter. This one was short. 5 words. You can't keep them forever. No return address again. I kept the letter. Took it straight to the police station the next morning. This time, they took it seriously. A detective listened to everything. Made copies of the letters. Opened a case file. He told me to document everything. Every sighting. Every message. Every incident. Meanwhile, Doreen kept pushing. She sent gifts to the house.
Dolls. Books. Clothes.
I sent them all back, unopened. She even mailed birthday cards, pretending everything was fine. Inside each one was a picture of Matt, like she was trying to guilt the girls into missing her. Every time I saw her handwriting, my stomach twisted up in knots. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about family. It was about control. And I wasn't going to let her have it. A few months went by with no sign of her. I started to breathe again. Started to hope maybe she had given up. Then, in early spring, a certified letter arrived. It was from a lawyer. Doreen was suing me for grandparents' visitation rights. She was dragging us to court. I sat there at the kitchen table, the girls doing their homework beside me, staring at the letter with my hands shaking. She wasn't going away. She was willing to fight dirty. I scraped together money for a lawyer. Had to borrow some from my brother in Raleigh. Felt like swallowing glass, asking for help, but I didn't have a choice. When we went to court, Doreen showed up dressed like the Virgin Mary herself. Pearls, white gloves, the whole bit. She cried on the stand. Told the judge she loved the girls more than life itself. Said I was keeping them from their heritage. Said I was emotionally abusing them by not letting them have a relationship with their father's side. I sat there, stone-faced, listening to her paint me like some villain. When it was my turn, I told the truth. I told the judge about the funeral, about the letter, about the stalking, about showing up at the school, about the gifts, the threats, the pressure. I brought every letter, every return package, every photo of her car outside the church. It wasn't even close. The judge ruled in my favor. Full custody, full parental rights, no forced visitation. Doreen was banned from contacting the girls without my written permission. She sat there, glaring at me across the courtroom like she could set me on fire with her eyes. After the ruling, she stood up and hissed, just loud enough for me to hear. "You're a nobody. You'll always be a nobody." I didn't respond. I picked at my girls, held their hands tight, and walked out. I thought that would be it. I thought after the court ruling, Doreen would crawl back under whatever rock she came from. But people like her don't give up. Not when they think they've been embarrassed. She didn't just want access to the girls anymore. She wanted revenge. It started small. Anonymous posts online. Whisper campaigns in our little town. Rumors that I was mentally unstable. That I was keeping Matt's daughters from their real family. That I was drinking too much, even though I hadn't touched a drop since Matt died. Some people believed her. Small-town folks love a scandal. A few parents at Kaylee's school stopped talking to me. A few side eyes at church. Invitations that used to come every holiday just dried up. It hurt, but I could live with it. What I couldn't live with was what she did next. One Friday night, I came home from my late shift at the pharmacy. Babysitter said everything had been normal.
Girls were already in bed.
But when I checked the mailbox, there was a big manila envelope stuffed inside. Inside were dozens of printed photos.
Photos of me.
Taken without my knowledge. Me leaving work. Me picking up the girls. Me at the grocery store. One photo showed Sophie swinging at the park. Another showed Kaylee walking home from school. There was no note. No explanation. Just the photos. I sat on the kitchen floor, shaking. This wasn't about visitation anymore. This wasn't about family. This was about fear.
About trying to break me down.
I called the police again. This time, they came fast. Took fingerprints off the envelope. Added it to the growing case file. But they warned me again. Unless Doreen physically hurt us, or made a direct threat, the law could only do so much. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the door with a baseball bat in my hands, listening to every little noise. I kept the girls home from school for a few days after that. Filed for a restraining order. It got approved fast, thanks to all the evidence. But even with a court order, I didn't feel safe.
And I was right not to.
Because 2 weeks later, she crossed the line for good. It was a Sunday. The girls were playing in the backyard. I was folding laundry in the living room. I heard the back gate creak open. I thought maybe it was the neighbor's cat again. But something in my gut told me to move.
Fast.
When I looked out the window, I saw her.
Doreen.
Standing in the backyard, holding a bag of toys. Like she could just stroll back into their lives if she showed up with enough bribes. Kaylee and Sophie froze. They knew the rules. They knew not to go near her. But Doreen didn't care. She knelt down on the grass and opened the bag. Pulled out dolls, candy, books. "Come here, girls," she said in that fake sweet voice. "Grandma loves you. Mommy's just confused. Come here." I flew out the door so fast I barely remember it. I screamed at her to get out. To leave. She stood up, slow, like she wasn't afraid of me at all. "You can't keep them forever," she said, her voice cold and steady. "They're mine too." I grabbed my phone and called the police right in front of her. She still didn't move. Not until she heard the sirens. Then she backed away, still smiling that awful smile. Like she knew something I didn't. Like it wasn't over. The police came. Again. I gave my statement. Again. They arrested Doreen that time, charged her with trespassing and violating the restraining order. She posted bail that same night. I thought maybe jail would scare her. Make her realize I wasn't playing games. It didn't. 3 days later, a woman from Child Protective Services showed up at my door. Clipboard in hand. Serious face. She said there had been an anonymous report about the girls. Allegations of neglect, emotional abuse, unsafe living conditions. My stomach dropped straight to the floor. I knew it was Doreen. Had to be. The social worker walked through my house. Took pictures of the girls' bedrooms. The kitchen. The backyard. She talked to Kaylee and Sophie separately, asking if they felt safe at home. The girls were confused.
Scared. So was I.
When she left, she said it would take a few weeks to close the case, but from what she had seen, she had no concerns at this time. Still, it stayed in my file. A black mark. A stain. Exactly what Doreen wanted. It wasn't about winning custody. She knew she couldn't. It was about making my life hell. Death by 1,000 cuts. I started carrying pepper spray everywhere. I changed the locks. Installed cameras. I barely slept. I lost 20 pounds I didn't have to lose. My boss at the pharmacy noticed. My friends noticed. Everyone kept telling me how strong I was. I didn't feel strong. I felt like I was holding on by my fingertips. Then the worst blow came. The girls' school called. Doreen had shown up again. This time, she wasn't trying to take the girls. She was passing out flyers to other parents. Flyers with my name on them. Accusing me of alienating the girls. Saying I was mentally unwell. That I was isolating them. Brainwashing them. It was a smear campaign, right there in the school parking lot. The principal called the police. They escorted her off the property. But the damage was done. Whispers started. Dirty looks. Other moms I used to chat with at pickup kept their distance. Kaylee came home crying one day because her best friend's mom said she couldn't come over anymore. She said, "You're dangerous, Mom." Kaylee sobbed. "Are you?" That shattered something inside me. I knew I couldn't stay passive anymore. I had to fight back. Not just survive.
Fight.
I spent that night sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of flyers one of the other moms had given me. My hands were steady for once. Cold, but steady. I realized something. Doreen was using the truth against me, twisting it, warping it, but she was still lying. And lies can be ripped apart if you know how to do it right. I didn't need to sink to her level. I needed to bury her with the truth. So I started gathering everything. Every police report, every restraining order, every school incident report, every CPS visit note, every picture from my security cameras showing her parked across from my house. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to expose her. I called my lawyer, set a meeting, told him what I wanted to do. He was quiet for a long time before saying, "It'll be messy. It'll get attention. Are you ready for that?" I was ready, because the life we were living now, the fear, the isolation, the constant stress, that wasn't living. I also contacted the principal at Kaylee's school, told him everything. And then I made my final move. I filed a lawsuit against Doreen. Defamation of character, harassment, emotional distress. We served her the papers on a bright Wednesday morning. According to the process server, she slammed the door so hard the glass cracked. Then I did something I hadn't done in 2 years. I posted publicly. A long, clear, fact-based post on my Facebook, on the school parents group, on the town community page. I didn't rant. I didn't accuse. I simply told the story, with dates, facts, legal documents attached. I laid it all out, the funeral, the hand-patting, the letters, the stalking, the court rulings, the CPS visits, the flyers. I ended it with this. I will always protect my daughters. I will not be bullied. And I will not be silent anymore. Then I logged off. It spread like wildfire. People I hadn't talked to in years messaged me. Parents apologized. Neighbors apologized. The sympathy that had been so quick to dry up before came pouring back. It didn't fix everything, but it shifted the ground. Doreen wasn't the poor, grieving grandmother anymore. She was a documented stalker, a proven liar, and the town saw her for what she was. Doreen tried to fight the lawsuit. She hired a lawyer who looked like he hadn't seen the inside of a courtroom since the 80s. They tried to spin it like I was the crazy one, but the evidence was too strong. The photos, the reports, the letters, the restraining orders. It crushed her. The judge didn't just rule in my favor. He ordered her to pay damages. Enough money to cover my lawyer fees, lost wages, and then some. She was banned from any contact with me or the girls, under threat of jail time. When the ruling came down, I sat outside the courthouse, the girls next to me, swinging their legs on the bench. Sophie leaned against me and said, in that small, sleepy voice kids get when they feel safe again, "Mommy, are we done with the scary grandma now?" I kissed the top of her head and said, "Yeah, baby, we're done." But in the back of my mind, I knew. People like Doreen don't just disappear. They fester. They plot. And sometimes, they strike when you least expect it. I thought the court ruling would be the final nail. It wasn't. About 2 months after everything settled down, just when I started breathing easier, a certified letter showed up at the house. It wasn't from Doreen this time. It was from her sister, Aunt Melanie, a woman I barely knew, who lived 3 hours away in Winston-Salem. Inside was a single piece of paper, a formal petition. They were trying to get custody through third-party kinship rights. Basically, Doreen had roped her sister into trying to get the girls taken from me. Since Doreen had burned her bridges legally, she figured she could backdoor her way through another relative. It was a Hail Mary pass. But in court, anything involving kids is taken seriously. I called my lawyer. He cursed under his breath and said, "We're not done yet." We had to go through the whole nightmare, all over again. More court dates. More interviews. The girls had to talk to another social worker. Again. Kaylee had night terrors for weeks. Sophie started wetting the bed. And I felt that old helplessness creeping back in. But this time, I wasn't the same woman I had been 2 years ago. I knew how to fight now. I built a wall of evidence. Testimonies from their teachers, from our pastor, from our neighbors. Photos of the girls thriving, riding bikes, doing homework, baking cookies. I even had statements from the original CPS worker, who cleared me. Every time Melanie's lawyer tried to argue that the girls needed more family support, I countered with facts. Support isn't showing up once every few years with candy. Support is packing lunches every morning, sitting up all night with a sick kid, working double shifts so they have shoes on their feet. I showed the court who actually raised Kaylee and Sophie. It wasn't Melanie. It wasn't Doreen. It was me. The final hearing stretched for 5 brutal hours. When it ended, the judge didn't even hesitate. She denied Melanie's petition with prejudice, meaning they couldn't file again. Ever. It was over.
For real this time.
No more loopholes. No more letters. No more surprise court battles. I had won. The girls were mine legally and forever. In the end, Doreen lost everything. The town knew what she was. She was banned from the school property, banned from my church, banned from my daughter's lives. Even some of her own family turned away from her. Word got around about the stalking, about the lies. She became a ghost in our town. I heard later she sold her house and moved in with some cousin down in Georgia. I didn't care. As for Aunt Melanie, she tried to act like none of it had been personal, like it was just concern. But I didn't forgive her. I didn't send Christmas cards. I didn't answer her apology letters. I didn't let her see the girls. She chose her side. And now, like Doreen, she had to live with it. Today, Kaylee is about to start high school. Sophie just made the soccer team. They're smart,
Kind.
strong. They know the truth. They know family isn't just blood. It's who shows up when it's ugly, when it's hard, when it would be easier to walk away. And I'll never let anyone take them from me again. Not by law. Not by guilt. Not by force. We survived. We didn't just survive. We won.
And Doreen?
She'll spend the rest of her bitter life knowing that she lost everything she ever cared about, and it was all her own fault.